Good morning, guys. Welcome again in these sessions. These sessions are basically specially meant for the BCA students, BCA final year students. So in these sessions, we are studying about the system designing concepts. So in the last session, the last classes we have completed our four chapters of our unit number 1. And in this chapter, in this session, we will be forwarding to our next chapter, which is the requirement analysis. So I have discussed about this point in our last chapter, which is system development life cycle, where we have studied various steps of system development as well as various different life cycle models like waterfall, agile, rapid application development, prototype model, spiral model, and many more models we have studied, as well as we have studied about what is the plan of those using those life cycle models. So let's continue with this session. So in this session, we will be going to cover all these content. What is the requirement analysis? What are the steps involved in requirement analysis process? Requirement analysis, basically some more information about requirement analysis process. What is the meaning of product versus process requirement? What is functional, non-functional, and good requirements? So these all we will be going to study about this lecture about fifth chapter. All right. So let's move to our notes part. So without taking your more time, so let's start with our first topic. What is the meaning of requirement analysis? So basically, in this chapter, in this point, requirement analysis, what we done, requirement analysis is basically the process of knowing or defining the expectations of the user कि उस पर्टिकुलर यूजर को हमारी जो कंपनी है, जो ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है, उससे एक्सपेक्टेशंस क्या हैं, और एज वेल एज हम ये कह सकते हैं कि जो हमारी, ताकि जो क्लाइंट है वो हमें अपनी अच्छे तरीके से इंफॉर्मेशन दे. एज वेल एज इन दिस रिक्वायरमेंट एनालिसिस वी बेसिकली एज ए कंपनी, हम एज ए कंपनी आइडेंटिफाई करते हैं कि क्लाइंट्स की क्या नीड है. हम आइडेंटिफाई करते हैं कि क्लाइंट्स की क्या नीड है. दैट्स व्हाई ये पॉइंट हमें कह रहा है कि रिक्वायरमेंट एनालिसिस इज द प्रोसेस ऑफ डिफाइनिंग द एक्सपेक्टेशंस ऑफ द यूजर for an application. Now expectations just meaning that the functionality is involved, all the functionalities that he wants from an application, all those things will become under this category of expectations. So requirement analysis is basically involve all the tasks that are conducted to identify the needs of our clients or of our stakeholders, you can see that. So this is basically the process of identifying the needs. Requirement analysis is basically the process of identifying the needs of a client from our company or from his software. So requirement analysis means to analyze, document, and validate and manage the software requirement, or we can say that the system requirement. So it is basically overview. It is basically just an overview that what is the meaning of requirement analysis. So as I already mentioned, that it is a process in which what we do, we just analyze, we first analyze, we document, then validate whether it is correct or not, and then after validation we manage, or you can say that we start working on all those requirements. So I guess this is all about the requirement analysis. You have gone through the overview of requirement analysis. Now we make a deep dive into requirement analysis. So requirement analysis basically involves various different kinds of stages. All right, so these are the stages. We will be going to study about the process as well. So for now, for our next topic, there is a requirement analysis phases, you can say that. So our first phase, you can say that, or you can say that the one phase involved in this process, or you can say that the requirement analysis is fixing system boundaries. So fixing system boundaries means we have to define the limits. We have to define the limits of our system, that in which working environment, what will be the working environment our system is going to perform. Like if there is any critical working environment, like hospitals, or like you can see that the military fields. So there there will be the boundaries. Those are the boundaries, you can say that, like in which working environment or system will operate, or software application will operate. Those are the boundaries of our system. Like what are the target audience, or next point is identify your target audience. So while defining our system boundaries, I will surely identify my target audience. Who are my target audience? So if I take the example of Book My Show application, so Book My Show target audience are generally those people who wants to book tickets of a particular movie online. So this is basically the target audience, right? So the person who really wants to watch a movie, watch a really great movie, he will go to their application and will book their tickets of any particular cinema hall online without going to that particular cinema, right? So there is basically different kinds of audience. Like we can like the person who actually needs to order food, so that particular person will not be using Book My Show application, because he is not the target audience. He is not in the target audience. So who is the target audience of the Book My Show? The one who wants to book the ticket. So that is all about the target audience, like, right? So each and every system has its own target audience, right? So let's move in second step. The second phase is to identify the target audience. Third phase is basically the requirement elicitation. So requirement elicitation is the very important point, very important perspective. You can see that for in order to build a particular system, because in the requirement elicitation we use different kinds of tools. Now, what is the meaning of requirement elicitation? We will be going to discuss in very detail uh, in further minutes. So let's study about the tools which is used in requirement elicitation. So in order to document the requirement elicitation, or you can say that in order to document or present the collected information uh, from requirement elicitation, we will document all those information with the help of using these tools. With the help of using these tools, data flow diagram, prototypes, as we have another data tools like transition flow diagrams, as well as we have entity relationship diagrams. So these are the tools which is basically used to uh, elicitate the requirement, right? Elicitate the requirement, or you can say that in the process of requirement elicitation, because we have to document our requirements in a particular manner, right? Which can be understandable by other users of my system as well, right? So these are the phases. These are the phases of my requirement analysis system. Now let's move to the another topic, which is requirement analysis process. Requirement analysis process. So requirement analysis process is basically what it is. I have mentioned here some four steps. All right, so four steps. These are the sequential steps. In this sequence, only these steps will be performed. So in requirement, let's study about these steps. So in requirement elicitation, what we do, requirement elicitation, it is basically the process of gathering requirements. It is basically the process of gathering requirements uh, from the customer, basically, right? The process of gathering requirements from the customer is basically known as the requirement elicitation. The process of gathering requirement with the customer is known as elicitation. Requirements elicitation. So as we have discussed in our last classes that system analyst is a very important person in our organization, because he is the one who do a lot of things, right? So he, as we discussed in the interpersonal skills of system analyst, that he must have a good communication skills. So with the help of these communication skills, you can link that topic here. With the help of those communication skills, our system analyst will communicate with the customer, and what he will do, he will try to gather maximum requirements of him. Like what is the what he wants from the system, right? So those are the requirement, as well as different kinds of requirements are there, like what is the budget of him, what which technology he wants to prefer, if he has information about different technologies. So we will be going to, not we will be, if you will be going to system analyst, then you have to work on your communication skills, because he is the one who do the negotiation between the developers of that particular company, as well as the clients of that particular company, as well as he present his views about the system. All right, his views, as well as he going to consult consult the client also about this systems, right? So this is about our first step. You can say that this is our first step, right? Eliciting requirements. Second step is analyzing requirement. In the second step, what we do after collecting or after gathering the requirements, what we do in this step, we analyze whether the gathered requirements are unclear, incomplete, or ambiguous. So in this, so basically, step we what we do, we analyze requirement. After collecting requirements, what we do, we analyze requirement, whether all those requirements are clear. Clear means whether those requirements can be possible or not. All right, or if there are any doubts left in the requirement, if some another requirement, if my two requirement can generate another third requirement. So whether these kinds, if my requirements are incomplete, whether my requirements are unclear, whether my requirements are ambiguous. So this is the process where we check or analyze or requirement or collected requirement, whether those requirements are clear or not, whether those requirements are complete or not, or whether it is ambiguous or unambiguous. So let's move to our next topic. Next topic is next point basically. Next point is requirement modeling. So in requirement modeling, what we do after collecting and analyzing my requirements for further perspective, for further perspective, in this step, we will document all the satisfied requirements. We will document all the satisfied requirements in different forms, such as what are the use cases of that particular requirements, what will be the user stories, what will be the process specification document. So process specification document basically involves all these kinds of tools, right? All these kinds of tools like data flow diagram, prototypes, entity relationship diagram as well. So with the help of these tools, we can be able to model or requirement. We can be able to present or conceptual view about our system, right? So we can be able to use all those tools. So we will be going to discuss all those tools in our next chapter. You can say that in our next unit, because we have the dedicated unit number second, where we only discuss about the modeling techniques, like what is the meaning of data flow diagrams, what is entity relationship diagram, what are different attributes available in those models. So this is about our third step, requirement modeling. We present a conceptual view. Right? Now in fourth step, what we do, we review all those process, review and retrospective. So and this step basically, this step is the last step. This step is the last step. It is basically the step which is conducted in order to reflect on the previous iterations. So what we have done in these steps, in our last three steps, what we will be going to do in the fourth step, we will just analyze the results of these three steps. We will analyze the results of these three steps, and these three steps, and if there are any improvements needed, if there is any improvements needed in these last three steps, so we will again iterate the last three. So if I do the diagram, first you have to perform this, and then you have to move towards this point, second point, and then after second point you have to move towards the third point. After the third points, you have to move towards or your fourth point, right. And if there is any improvements needed, what you have to do, you have to again repeat the cycle. All right, you have to again repeat the cycle. So this is about the requirement analysis process. This process involves the four steps. Fourth step we have discussed: eliciting requirement, analyzing requirements, requirement modeling, as well as review and retrospective. Right. So just a minute, just a second, just hold guys for a second. Yes, so we have already discussed about just a minute. We have already discussed about what is the requirement analysis, what is the steps available in the requirement analysis process, what are the basically phases. You can let me write here. So, what are the phases? We have discussed the three phases of requirement analysis process. Uh, this chapter is not basically very big, so this is very small, right, and very good and very understandable, right? So this is you can score in this process in this chapter very good, as well as this chapter is very important for the practical perspective also, practical life perspective also. So we have left these two topics, so let's cover first this topic, functional non-functional requirement and the good requirement, then we will move towards the process and product requirements. So let's cover first functional, what are the functional requirement, non-functional requirement, and what are the good requirements. So as I mentioned here that functional requirements, we have classified our requirements into three types. We have classified our requirement into three types: functional requirement, we have functional requirements, and we have non-functional requirements, and we have good requirements. So functional requirement, what are the functional requirement? These requirements are basically includes those functions, or you can say that those modules which is requested by the system, which is requested by the user from the system, which is requested by the user from the system. Like a functional requirement, if I tell you very straightforward, so these are the actual functionalities which a system, which a user wants from a system, which a user wants from a system. Like if I take the example of a system, so a user came to us and said that our system must have, I want to develop a system where you can make friends, where you can make friends by sending request, where you can make friends by sending request. And what you have to do, you have to make a request processing system. Okay, you have to make a request processing system, all right, and you have to make a system where you have to make a system, just a minute, let me draw this. So you have to make a system where there is one functionality where of request, of sending request, all right, and another functionality, what he wants, another functionality he wants that uh, request, first is the request processing system, right? Another processing he wants, he the only connected friends can send messages, only connected friends can send messages. So you can say that these are the modules, right? These are the modules, okay. So these are basically the modules which, or you can say that modules, or you can simply say that these are the basically requirements. These two are the functional requirements, or you can say that these are the actual requirements which a person wants, which a client wants from a system. This is the actual requirements which is needed to him. All right, which he expects from his system. All right. So I hope you have cleared this example. So what are the functional requirements? Functional requirements are basically those requirements which is expected by a particular client from an organization, that this particular organization will give me my system ready with listed with all those requirements I have mentioned to them. So I have given points three. I have given here 3 points. So first one is the what the system should do. All right. So this is also one of the requirement, functional requirement. List of the actual services, as I have taken an example, what are the actual services which a system will provide, what are the functionalities which clients wants from the system. All right, so I hope you are clear about this functional requirements. So let's move towards our next requirement, which is non-functional requirements. So in non-functional requirements, basically in non-functional requirements, these are the requirements which the user do not tell you about, which the user does not which the user does not negotiate you with, right? So if I take the example, if I take the example of my previous, if I take the example of my previous thing, like a client came to us and he wants 2 modules. He wants two modules. First module is for requesting. First module is for requesting. Second module is for messaging. Well connected friends. Right. So these two modules is basically the requirements are. These two modules are basically the requirements of my client. Right. These two modules are the requirement of my client. So he will just tell about you. He will just come to you and tell that he just want these two modules integrated with each other, right? Because only the connected friends or those friends who have accepted the friend request, only those can do messages, right? So these are the functional requirements, right? So what are the non-functional requirements? Non-functional requirement basically involves very important the response time. Response time means in which time this particular module is operating, or in which time, in what time this particular module is completing its services, in what particular time this module is completing its services, right? In what time these are doing their services, right? So these are the non-functional environment requirements. Those requirements which is does not tell by the user, but or your system must have these requirements, because if your system does not have, because if your system does not have the best messaging services. Best means that you have sent a message to your friend last night, and he is receiving your message today's morning. So this is not to be done, right? Your response time must be very good. The timing of operations I have already discussed about these. These are the constants basically on the services which system is offering. Constants basically the restrictions, what should be the response time, what should be the processing time. Like processing time means if a particular user is accepted, if a particular user is accepted the request, what time the notification in what time the notification should be sent to the to the user which is requested to be the friend of that particular user, right? So this is about the processing time, how much processing time is required. So our system must complete these non-functional requirements. So non-functional requirements are those requirements which is not mentioned by the user but should be present in your system while you are developing as a corporate, company. So I hope you understood these topics, right? If you have any doubts, you can further ping me. You can do comment also. So let's move towards the next type of requirement, which is good requirement. So good requirement basically involves some points which which are basically required in order to complete a particular system. Like our system must be complete. We should not deliver an incomplete system to our client. System must be consistent. Like consistence means it must deal with all of its operations very consistent manner. Consistent means that uh, there must not any error come up. There must not any error come up uh, while while my system is operating. In its environment, in its working environment. So there must not any error come up. Consistent means your system must be uh, environment friendly, right? Correct means it should do all the work. It should do, or system must do all the work which is mentioned by our client very efficiently or very correctly, right? So these are the very good requirements. These are the good requirements which our system is have. So our system will be considered as a very efficient system. Feasible also, like feasible, we have already discussed the what is the meaning of feasibility in our last chapter. In our feasibility study chapter, like we have different four kinds of different feasibilities. So our system must be feasible, or right, according to that particular environment. Economic feasibility and the operational feasibility are the very required feasibility. All right. So we have completed all the topics in our chapter number 5. Now, our last topic which is left is product versus process requirement. So this is the very important topic. So we will be discussing this topic in just 5 to 10 minutes, because this meeting is not have so much time. So let's do this topic in next 5 minutes, right? So thank you so much guys for joining. We will surely complete this topic in some time, in just time, in very short point of time, in just 5 minutes, right? This is not very much big topic. All right. So thank you guys, thank you so much for joining this session. We will be discussing about this topic for very shortly, because this topic has come into last year examinations also. So be stay tuned, and uh, it, must join our next session of product versus process requirement. Not that much very longer. This topic is not that much very longer, right? So thank you so much guys, thanks for joining.